has many crazy tuners. Some are performance tuners and some are style tuners, but you rarely see tuners that would completely change the structure of the car. But there is one tuner that is specialized on this type of tuning, and this tuner is called Rinspeed. Coming from the land of crazy tuners, Rinspeed is known for making some of the craziest cars out there. Cars that you would only see on movies or just as ideas on a car show. But Rinspeeds are fully functional cars, which you can buy and drive or dive daily. So hello guys and welcome back to another video, and here is the story of Rinspeed. Rinspeed was founded in 1979 by Frank Rinderknecht. Thus the name Rinspeed, R-I-N for the first letters of his surname and speed. Before founding Rinspeed, Frank was converting manual cars for the disabled and also was mounting sunroofs on different American cars. But he decided to switch his focus towards tuning, and at the 1979 Geneva Motor Show he presented the Volkswagen Golf Turbo, which was based on the Mk1 GTI. The main feature of the Turbo was the new front end, where the round headlights were replaced by square ones. Rinspeed was one of the first tuners to go for this style, and soon almost all the other tuners started offering similar conversions for all sorts of cars. 2 years later, at the 1981 Geneva Motor Show, Rinspeed presented the Aliporta, which was an even more extreme version of the Golf Turbo. The only similarities that the two cars shared with each other were that both were Golfs and both had square headlights, but instead of having 4, the Aliporta had 6, creating this way a total crazy look. But the most unique feature was of course the gullwing doors. And the funny story is that the Aliporta was presented at the same time with a DeLorean DMC-12 at the 1981 Geneva Motor Show. Rinspeed had packed the Aliporta with 1000 SAL luxury features, like Recaro leather seats, TV, hi-fi stereo system, and even a minibar, which was located at the trunk. The Aliporta definitely raised the bar for Rinspeed and set the path for all the crazy cars that would come in the future. After introducing the Aliporta, Rinspeed would move its headquarters from Küsnacht to Zurich, and in 1982 Rinspeed would become the official distributor of AMG for Switzerland. 1 year later, at the 1983 Geneva Motor Show, Rinspeed showed up with 2 new cars, the Rinspeed Two-Tone, based on the E21 3 Series, and the Rinspeed 939, which was a mix between a 911 and a 928. The first goal of Rinspeed was to build a 911 turbo convertible, since at that time Porsche didn't offer one. So Rinspeed reinforced the car and packed it with a normal 911 turbo engine, which was left untouched. For the styling, Rinspeed decided to go for a 928-ish look, but by using a slant nose, the eye-frog pop-up headlights of the 928 and the taillights of the 128. Thus the name 939, 911 plus 28, but later the name was changed to R39 since Porsche already owned the 939 name. The interior could be ordered with everything you wished, as long as you had the money to pay for it. After the R39 came the R69 Turbo, based on the 911 Turbo, and this is definitely one of the craziest tuned cars of the 80s. Now there were a number of tuners that offered Ferrari kits for different Porsche models, and some of them looked quite good, like this F40 kit for the 924, made by a tuner called Automania. But Testarossa combined with 911 just doesn't look good at all, probably because Testarossa had straight geometrical lines, while the 911 has these beautiful curvy lines. For the rest of the 80s, Rinspeed built a number of different cars, but nothing that really stood out. But things would start to change in the 90s, when Rinspeed would start tuning more extreme cars, and sometimes they would also build their own sport cars, which always had something unique to offer. The first car of the 90s was the Rinspeed Turbo Speedster, but sadly I couldn't find much information about this car, so I can't talk much about it. The only thing is that, like Gambala, Rinspeed also decided to offer a speedster version of the 993, since Porsche never offered one. 1 year later, Rinspeed, in collaboration with Nissan, presented the Speed Art. This car was built to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Nissan in Switzerland. The car had received both stylistic and performance changes. First, Rinspeed decided to use bigger turbos, which increased the power from 283 to 420 horsepower. This additional power lowered the acceleration time to 4.9 seconds and increased the top speed to over 300 km per hour. But speed was only one side of this car, the other was the art. Rinspeed contacted Swiss artist Rolf Ney. Ney, which had been looking for such an opportunity for a long time, decided to paint 420 horses on top of the car, symbolizing this way the power of the car. After the speed art came the Rinspeed Vileno, which was based on a new American monster called Viper. First, Rinspeed decided to paint the Viper with a crazy bright neon green color, a color that definitely sets the Vileno apart from the rest of the Vipers. The neon green also continued inside the car, where the most unique feature was the phone pad placed on the steering wheel, something common for the Rinspeeds of the time. And like previous Rinspeeds creation, the Vileno had more power than the regular Viper, and this thanks to the use of nitro, which will increase the power from 400 to 500 horsepower. But from one crazy supercar to another. Only 1 year later, after presenting the Vileno, Rinspeed presented the Heyen, based on the legendary EB110. Now, I have mentioned the Heyen before on my video about the story EB110, but let's talk again about it. The Heyen was based on the GT version of the EB110, and differently from the Brabus EB110, which only received the new exhaust system, the Heyen had undergone a full treatment, at the point that the car is basically unrecognizable. In my opinion, the EB110 is a perfect looking car, and if you touch it you only are going to make things worse. And this is the case of the Heyen. The car isn't ugly by supercar standards, but is nowhere near the original EB110. The front end now didn't feature the iconic horseshoe grille, but instead now there was a huge air intake. Also, the headlights were replaced by 6 smaller ones. A similar story continued at the rear part, where the weirdest thing was a wing which was mounted on top of the glass that covered the engine. And in typical Rinspeed fashion, the engine again wasn't left untouched. Rinspeed tuned the engine in order to produce the same numbers as the SS version of the EB110, 600 horsepower and 470 pound-foot of torque. And thanks to this, the top speed was at 350 km per hour, and the acceleration time at 3.4 seconds. But all these were tuned cars, so Rinspeed was limited on what they could do, especially with the body of the car. So in 1995 they went a step further and presented the Roadster R, which had a body completely built in-house. Rinspeed decided to capitalize on the growing hot rod market of the mid to late 90s, introducing a car which took cues from the racing cars of the 50s and 70s, and especially AC Cobra. But like many retro-style cars of the time, the Roadster R looks kind of weird, and this color makes things even worse. And talking about weird and colors, just look at the interior of this car. Now, personally I love interiors with weird colors and patterns, and the interior of this car is definitely something unique and special, and of course memorable, so I like it a lot. The engine, like most of the mechanical The engine, like most of the mechanical parts, came from the 4th gen Mustang GT. And you could get the car with a naturally aspirated engine with 218 horsepower or with a supercharger with 305 horsepower. The Roadster R was followed by the yellow Talbot 1 year later. The yellow Talbot paid homage to the beautiful Talbot Lago T150 SS. And I have to say, as a huge fan of Tourball Lago, Rinspeed does a pretty good job on replicating the iconic teardrop shapes of the original car, even though the headlights kinda look a bit off. The yellow Talbot used the same powertrain as the Roadster STR, so the performance numbers were the same. Another retro-style car came in 1997 and was called Mono Ego. The car was built to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Rinspeed, and the Mono Ego was probably the most extreme car Rinspeed had built until then. Now, compared to the previous cars, I think that the Mono Ego looks the worst. I don't know if it is the paint job, the giant tires, or just the overall shape of the car, but I don't like how this car looks. The power came from a 4.6 liter supercharged V8, which produced 410 horsepower. The same power plant was also used for the Ego rocket, which came 1 year later. Just the difference was that now the engine was placed behind the driver's seat, creating this way an amazing experience. The design of the rocket was a bit different compared to the last Rinspeeds. Yeah, some retro-style parts were still there, but the car looks a bit more futuristic compared to the others. But in the end, these were just normal cars. Yeah, maybe they had crazy design and power, but in the end they were just normal cars that everyone could build. But this would change in 1999, when Rinspeed would start building cars with crazy features that could do amazing things. Frank came up with the idea after seeing many pickup trucks in America towing things, while keeping the bed empty. The car was based on the M-Class 55 AMG, but everything besides the platform and the running parts was changed. Rinspeed developed a unique system to load and unload cargo, in this case a hovercraft. The idea is of course interesting, and combined that with the wacky design of the car makes the Extreme one of the coolest cars out there. But this was just the beginning. In the 2000, Rinspeed would introduce all sorts of crazy cars, from cars that can get longer to cars that could go underwater. But that's a story for another time. So guys, thank you for watching. See you next time.